effort from the independents and the patch holders in our state. I believe that there are numerous foundational principles that allowed us to do it. The first is we unified. We decided that we needed to participate. This democracy is not a democracy where someone hands you your rights. No group has ever obtained their rights based through silence. So we made the decision we were going to participate and we were going to unify as a community. The next thing we made the decision to do, which I encourage everyone to do and won't get in depth about it because Jimmy explains it much better than I, is you need to get on board the U.S. Defenders Program because it is a communication network that allows you to tie and bind all the different elements of the motorcycle rights movement when you're dealing with profiling or other issues together. It's the indispensable tool that allowed us instantaneous communication and also made sure that the independents and the patch holders were on the same page. Once we had those foundational principles in place, then it came down to what's your argument. And really, these things all need to exist at the same time for any of them to be successful. But when it comes down to your day, where you sitting in front of the legislators that are going to make the decision on whether this piece of legislation is going to go to the floor or not, the important thing to demonstrate is a pattern of evidence. Not an anecdotal story like we've all heard and told in COC meetings for the last 20 years about how we were discriminated against and profiled. I'm talking about the tangible evidence that you can hold in your hand, you can let people see, they can touch and they can feel, until it turns these stories into something that's actually real. So what I'm basically going to focus on, and I'm going to integrate the people who were all part of this effort into my presentation because the profiling bill is not double D outside of the motorcycle clubs in Tacoma or Washington. It's the Washington State Confederation of Clubs of U.S. Defenders. It is all of the critical work Martin Fox, our attorney, has done. It's all the critical work that Les, who's the lieutenant commander of the Defender program, but basically is the person who's responsible for all our networking and communication. And although Pigpen's not up here, Pigpen deserves a great deal of recognition because he had this vision a long time ago. And he knew that if we all coalesced and put everything together at the same time in the same place, the kind of success that we've had the last couple of years is exactly what we can achieve. And he told me that 10 years ago. And he's been working on it for 20. So I want recognition to go to him. So spewing information at you for an hour, although there'll be a bit of that. I'm going to interact, and when we get to a relevant point where I know one of the fellows who was a critical participant in this process has something more to offer than me, then we're going to trade the floor back and forth. So it's going to be an interactive presentation. First is the definitions. What is motorcycle profiling? And I think before we get specifically what motorcycle profiling is, it's important to understand what the concept of profiling is and how the legislature and the courts have defined profiling. Profiling is defined as when a law enforcement officer targets an individual displaying characteristics of a class that officer believes more likely than others to be guilty of a crime. That means basically, because you look a certain way, and I think that people who look that way are more likely than others to commit a crime, I'm going to